right, hello there, brothers and sisters. I'm Diane Middleton, and it's my pleasure to be here today with my good friend, Peter Gravett. He's going to be talking about his book, Battling While Black. And it's going to be wonderful because you are going to hear an amazing story. You're going to hear about the 1 million African Americans who served in World War II and what they had to do to be able to make a contribution.
And General Gravett, you personally, as a leader, as just an honorable human being, have been just an idol of mine for years and years and years. And this public service of mine comes with many blessings. You get chances to meet people, you get chances to knock on people's doors and get to know folks you never knew before. That's really how I've gotten to know you. Even though the McCosker family and the Gravett family go pretty far back.
Oh, yeah.
My dad has stories. But it is really, really an honor to be here with you. It's an honor to be with everyone here, and I see that we have great vets here in the room. God bless you, and thank you for your service.
When you read this book, I think you're going to have many of the same reactions I did. And I want to start out by saying, of course I'm proud of our country. Of course I'm proud to be an American, and I'm proud to be in San Pedro, and I love all of it. But we also have to say that our country has done an awful lot of things, and if we don't talk about them, acknowledge them, and figure out how to move forward, we're going to be stuck. So we got a lot to work on. This book is a great beginning. You owe it to yourself to read about it. What do you have to say about Peter? He retired from the military, over 40 years combined service in the Army and National Guard. He began his military by enlisting in the 109th Military Police Battalion. As a non-com, he graduated from Officer Candidate School and he was commissioned. Over the years, he commanded at every level from platoon to senior command, culminating as commanding general of the 40th Infantry Division. Following military retirement, he was appointed by the governor and served as Secretary of the California Department of Veterans Affairs, CalVet. He received his master's degree from USC. He has an executive diploma from Harvard. He's an Army War College graduate. He's a graduate of the FBI National Academy, and he's a recipient of several military awards and decorations, including the Distinguished Service Medal. General Gravett served tours of duty in Asia, the Pacific, Central America, as well as Western and Central Europe. We are so fortunate to have him here today.
I start the book by giving some background about my family. My father was a Tuskegee Airman, a private in the 99th Pursuit Squadron in World War II. He was drafted into an Army Air Corps unit and served there. And his job in the military was to ferry pilots from base operations out to their aircraft on a jitney or a jeep or something like that, and that's what he did. And when the pilots returned, he would drive out there and pick them up and bring them back to base operations if they returned. So, and you read about him in the book also, so I won't go on about that. And you know, I think most of you know that. My 9 brothers served in the Army, and I have 2 sisters got into the act also. One married a soldier and one married a Marine. It's always important to have a Marine in the family, right?
I can highly recommend this book. It was amazing that these soldiers were able to contribute as much as they did and still not, unfortunately, get the recognition that they deserve. It's an interesting part of our American history, and it's something that I'm sure everyone should understand.
I started off, I identified 4 units. You know, there's a lot of African American units that fought in World War II. You know, the Army was segregated back then, as America was segregated. I enlisted in the military through the National Guard in Los Angeles. At the time I enlisted, the California National Guard was segregated. California Guard was segregated, and you probably didn't know that. But California state government was segregated at that time. Governor Pat Brown, one of his campaign pledges when he ran for governor in 1962 was that he was going to integrate state government, and he did. And so he disbanded the black units, merged them with the white units, and I was merged from an all-black unit to integrated unit.
He's written several books. This is one of his best. It goes into the history that is basically unknown about the black soldiers that contributed to the victory in Europe.
But let me go back just a couple of minutes to World War I in 2018 and show you how that morphed into World War II. 2018.
1918.
1918. And all the black units were given over to the French, and they fought under the French command in World War I. They wore French uniforms, they had French helmets, and they had French weapons. And they were honored by the French for their bravery in World War I. So after the war, the black soldiers came home, and the Army discharged all the blacks because they wanted to have a white army. So the only blacks when World War II started, less than 4,000 blacks in the entire Army, less than 4,000. Only 5 officers, 5 black officers in the entire U.S. Army. 3 were chaplains, and they were chaplains in those horse cavalry regiments. And the other 2 was father and son, Benjamin Davis Sr., Benjamin Davis Jr. Benjamin Davis Sr. was a colonel, and his son had graduated from West Point in 1937. Only the second black to graduate from West Point. And they have a full career also, and I won't talk about them, but just know that later Benjamin Davis Jr. Became the commander of the Tuskegee Airmen in the Army Air Corps. His father later became the first African-American general in the Army. So they have a rich history, and there's a lot written about them. Okay. 7 years later, they did the study. The Army did the study. And some of the remarks in the study they did was what she cited. And if you read the book, she just touched on a few of them. But the things that are in that study about black soldiers it'll shock you to the core. And this was the Bible. This is what they gave to white officers about the competencies of black soldiers. And it was really devastating. Now, keep in mind that the generals that we had in America in World War II, they were lieutenants and captains in World War I. They were handed this study, and so in World War II, before blacks even were drafted into the Army, they had their opinions formed by this study. So General Patton was an interesting person, and you read about him. There's an old saying that you praise in public and you criticize in private. What he did, General Patton did, was that he wrote in his journal every single day. And the comments that he wrote in his journal were very, very pointed, especially about black soldiers. He praised them in public, and in his memoirs, in his notes, in his journal, he said that he had no faith in them, no confidence in them. They're incompetent. I'm stuck with these soldiers. And years after he passed away, his family allowed an author to collate his letters and put them in a book, and that's where we get the information from. So of those 4 movies that Hollywood did, and these were blockbuster movies, no black faces, none. And so later on, people interviewed Steven Spielberg and said, what happened? You didn't have any black soldiers. And he said, well, I was told that there was no black soldiers that landed on Normandy Beach on D-Day, June 6, 1944. In fact, there were almost 2,000 black soldiers that landed on those beaches. And the second battalion I write about is the 761st Tank Battalion. He had a bone to pick with General Patton. He made a statement, blacks are not smart enough to fight in armor, which is tanks. That statement, that blacks are not smart enough to fight in armor, I took it personally. I said, well, I got to write about this. I think I wrote about it in this book here. The 761st were honored after the war for the heroics that they did. And one of their soldiers, Reuben Rivers, even today as we stand here, is being considered for the Medal of Honor posthumously 75 years after the war. The next battalion I want to talk about is the 333rd Field Artillery Battalion. In the Battle of the Bulge, they were, that division was decimated by the Germans. The biggest failure that we suffered in World War II, because that division was decimated. 9,000 soldiers in the division were either killed, captured, or wounded. From there, we move on to the final battalion, which was the 6th AAA Central Postal Battalion. Now, just a quick word about that. It was an all-women's battalion, a WAC battalion. They were sent to Europe because the mail had been stagnated and had not moved for a year or two. Warehouses stacked full of mail bags. They brought them in. They designed a system. They were part of General Patton's 3rd Army. They followed him as he was maneuvering and got the mail out. Now, in combat, there's 3 commodities that you have to be successful in combat: food for the soldiers, ammunition, and the mail, because the mail affects morale. And they got the mail out, and so on and so forth. They were honored for that. So those are the 4 battalions I write about. And with that, I'll stop.
And I'm so grateful that General Gravett wrote this book, and that everybody will be able to learn but important part of our history. And we're going to move forward from here. And of course we have, as indicated by the many African Americans that are serving at the highest level of government. And of course we have to parenthetically mention, including President. So it's all pretty cool. Thank you.